Welcome back, travelers, and today we will be talking about the green-white color combinations of the Evangelist and the Monk. For brevity purposes, of course, I will be referring to these combinations, the two of them, as the Selesnya color pair, as that's what they are called in the game of Magic. So, basically, let's talk about what on the wheel, their friends, or their allies, obviously. So let's talk about what they find as a common enemy, which is black. Black to them is a malignant, selfish tumor in the overall organism that is society, and that the two of them do not like the way it functions, they do not like the way it corrupts things, and they both see that as a very, very, just an evil presence. Evil is a great way to describe it. It's just like, it's wrongness. And so, as a result, they try to avoid being as selfish as possible, making them one of the more selfless colors. This can be extended to the common desire of green-white in general, in that they just want harmony for all parties involved. Even if it's your enemy, you love your enemy. You turn the other cheek. You do everything you can to make sure that everyone stays happy and safe, and above all, just making sure that everything runs smoothly in a society, in a community. The problem is that the conflict is actually very interesting, and it's something that over the years of trying to figure out the green's niche and expanding what it means to be green in a personality trait, I came to the conclusion that there's actually a very important difference between white-green and green-white. When it's primary white, it's more we need to make sure we take things out of the society. We need to remove things. Either that could be executing criminals, putting them away, removing them, exiling, all that stuff, getting rid of the badness. While in the case of green, the green-white side of things, the more green-centric, is about growing and improving the good parts of things. Yeah, both will have that opportunity to do the same thing as the other, obviously, but the focus of green is more on making sure that everybody else is becoming more good. It's the one more likely to educate and more likely to foster growth. If it sees something strange that a person can do, but that thing is good for the society as a whole, then we need to make sure they can do that better. As opposed to, that person's doing something strange, and I don't like it, so we need to get rid of it, which is the white side of things. So, for this particular description, I call it pruning versus cultivating, which it fits, I think. So on the pruning side of things, like I said, cutting it out, excising, exiling, just saying, you know what, forget you, you aren't good for this community, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. It's something's being disruptive, being chaotic, being bad. It's something that needs to be removed, because if you try to accept it, if you try to let it into your systems, it's just going to muck up the mixture, and everybody else is going to get affected negatively by that. So it's best just to get rid of it. Of course, the cultivating thing is it seeks out the uniqueness in individuals and tells them you have a place here. You are a part of a greater whole, but we need to make sure that you can be the best part you can be. You're only as strong as your weakest link is brought into a more positive note here, where the weakest link needs to be insanely strong too. And that's just a different way of the two of them looking at the world. One needs to get rid of evil, the other one needs to promote good. That's part of the reason why with the Evangelist, I named it the Evangelist. It's a person that goes out and they go and they try to change things, they try to fix things, they try to take what's bad and remove it from a society. And that's the Evangelist thing, by injecting the good to get rid of the bad. While in the monk sense, it's more inwards. It's more about, okay, let's meditate, let's try and figure out where my place is, and then being a mentor to others. There are characters in Magic, such as a Johnny, who both exemplify both sides of that, more so the green-white, I'd say, in Johnny's case. But the whole concept of we need to make sure everything is peaceful. We need to make sure there is a perfection to be held. The perfection of green-white is very different from the perfection of blue. Blue believes it's possible to create perfection. It's possible to engineer a perfect form. But in the case of green and white, mainly the green side, I'd say, perfection is a very different kind of idea. Perfection is inherently in everything. There is a goodness that is meant to be cracked open and revealed for people to find inside of everything. Meaning that perfection that you're searching for, according to green, it's pointless because it's already there. You just need to look at it. You need to see it from a different perspective sometimes. So, like I've been saying, the Evangelist is very much like, I'm going to speak to you, and like if you get in an argument with white-green, you're probably going to either, like, it's just going to be like, don't worry about it. But if you're trying to change its mind and trying to tell it that it's wrong and that it needs to change itself, it'll be very, very, no, I will not. I stand by what I believe in. Not so much the white-red zealot, but so much more along the sides of, I am just an immovable object. I am not going to change my stance. I am very firm in what I believe, and you can say what you want. I'm not going to try and attack you for it most of the time, unless, of course, I think it's going to hurt everybody. But you can believe what you believe. I believe what I believe. What I believe is right, but that's beside the point. It's this unyielding sense of just like being a champion for something. That's the strength of white-green, is that, or Selesnya color combination, is that you can't make it do anything. This quote right here is the perfect example of that. It's Captain America. He says, "Doesn't matter what the press says, doesn't matter what the politicians or the mobs say, doesn't matter if the whole country decides that something wrong is something right. This nation was founded on one principle above all else, the requirement that we stand up for what we believe. No matter the odds or the consequences, when the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the whole world to know you move." I mean, that's that right there. You're a tree besides the river of truth. You're drinking from the river of truth through your roots. You are, that's very green. Why I love that image. I actually don't remember that part from the quote, but that's the quote. And I just feel like it just fit the color combination very well. That's all nice and good, but along those same lines, the weakness is the simplicity of the Selesnyan color combination. Because the Selesnyans will have an idea of what things should be like, right? There's a set way things should be done. Kind of like how Mono Blue's weakness was that it knew everything. Green-white is that it knows enough. Green-white is aware, yeah, there's other things out in there in the world. There's other concepts, but I'm happy and content where I am. But that weakness is that if something new hits you, you're not going to be prepared for that new thing. So it really depends on the community as a whole. Because like I said, the green side of things also says that each person is uniquely equipped to do things for the body of the community. So whatever that particular trait is, if you have someone who can deal with that problem, awesome, that's great, because they're specialized and meant to do that. But if you don't, then you're in trouble because you don't have the proper tools to combat that particular thing. Okay, so for the green-white hero and villain, it was actually kind of hard for me because a lot of characters, they fit into other colors, and there's a lot of other things that match up with them. Like, I've seen people refer to Yoda as being green-white, but he's very much in the green-blue category, so I couldn't use him. There were other green-white villains that were just basically animals, so it just like, yeah, I get it, it's because it's nature-based, but you need somebody who's like actually like very strongly in those colors. So, I went with the hero, Luigi. Yes, that Luigi Mario. Luigi, the Mario brother. Now, you may think to yourself, okay, well, Luigi's just a really simple guy. I'm like, yeah, that was one of the weaknesses, wasn't it? But there's a lot to Luigi that we can talk about and bring up that kind of illustrate the color combination itself. All the way back to Mario Brothers, when it's just Mario and Luigi running through some pipes, hitting some turtles and some crabs and some ice stuff and bees. But you see, during that time, all the way up until now, Luigi has constantly been the player 2. He's constantly been the second banana. He's constantly been the guy that just kind of does his thing and then he's done. If you need his help, he's going to be there. Mario can go on an adventure on his own. You can go one player and just do it. But Luigi is there to help. Even in the new Mario Maker, if you're starting to lose a match, if you're in the story mode and things are troubling you, Luigi's like, hey, you want some help? And that's kind of Luigi's deal, is that he just wants to make sure his brother is okay. This is really, really well illustrated in Luigi's Mansion. That's what the whole story is about. Mario is missing. Also, the game Mario is missing. In those things, Mario is suddenly gone, and Luigi takes it on himself that he needs to go find his brother. He needs to go do what he can to try and save the one who saves everybody else. It's just what's right. It's the circle of life. Mario saves the world, Luigi saves Mario. That's the kind of way it works. Even when Luigi was going on his own adventures and stuff like Paper Mario, he made sure that he always had the chance to tell his brother about it. He was always excited to be like, hey, bro, listen to what I got. It's a super cool. And so he would go, he'd tell a story, and it would be slightly different from the way things actually were. But that's because of his optimism. That's because it's Luigi. But if you look at things he does, he fights things. And not just any things, but ghosts. He fights ghouls. He fights the undead. His whole thing is that, yeah, these things are literally pure evil spirit trying to hurt my brother and Toads and sometimes whoever else happens to be in the hotel, because that's where we're going now for Luigi's Mansion 3, which I'm super excited about. But that's beside the point. You see, Luigi is a character bent, just determined to save others, to make sure that things stay the way they should be. And he doesn't matter if he's going to put himself out. He is terrified of ghosts. He's terrified of a lot of things. But that bravery to save his brother is what brings him up and out and into some amazing adventures. It is worth noting, last note on Luigi, is that he's very competitive. If you look at him in Mario Kart, any of the newer Mario Karts, he has the Luigi Death Glare. That is actually an attribute of Green-White, being very, very competitive, especially in sports and team building exercises. They still want to be the best because it's survival of the fittest part of the green that kind of stands out. So the man in green, Green Mario, is very green in general, but he has that green-white heroic aspect to him. So he'd be the monk. Cool. The villain. He's white-green. It's Thanos. Thanos. Yeah, that Thanos. Thanos. Probably call him Thanos because I like calling him Thanos. But it's Thanos. 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 Thanos is the villain of Endgame. And the Thanos we see in Endgame is actually a very different character from the one we see in Infinity War. Both of them are Thanos, of course, but one is much younger, the Endgame one, and hasn't had to kind of work for all the things that he did in during Infinity War. And as a result, they actually are both different colors. And in a later video, I could talk about that if anyone was interested. But the original Thanos that they wind up fighting against, the one who talks about how things should be perfectly balanced as all things should be, the one who cares about his children, who sacrifices his daughter for the greater good, that is a very white-green Thanos. He's kind of just completely tossed out all of his selfish motivations by that point, and he's distilled himself, and he's just so determined because he honestly believes that all people need to appreciate what they have, to use what they have, to live and survive off the resources they have, is just to wipe out the half of all life in the universe. That's extreme white-green. Possibly even mono-white, but due to the fact that he believes it has to do with the systems and the way that nature works, and the fact that if he culls a planet, the planet is able to flourish. That's the pruning ideology of white-green. And just the whole idea of there being such an prominent white-green villain when, especially with Marvel movies, you have plenty of characters like, well, that would be a spoiler for that movie, and that would also be a spoiler for that movie. So, other characters that are more black-leaning, where they are more selfish characters. There's a lot of other attributes that can bring villainy to light. And Thanos is a great example of that, where he's doing things because he thinks that he's in the right. He thinks he's the good guy. And that's that would actually fit white-green really well, too. You're wrong. No, I'm not wrong. End of discussion. There's no dialogue between them. There's no debate. It's just yes or no. Well, that does it for this episode. The Selesnyan Monk and Evangelist. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys haven't taken the color test, please do. I'll leave a link in the description as I usually do. If you have taken the test and this was your color, then I hope you enjoyed it and hope you weren't insulted by the fact that I called you simple. At this point, we've done several videos over the different color combinations. We've done that one with the Powerpuff Girls. I'm working on one with Pokemon. There's a whole bunch of different aspects of these different color combinations that I'm really liking how it's all coming together, and that there's going to eventually get to a point where we have all the color combinations done. This episode was very fun to figure out. It was actually a bit of a puzzle to get the characters down. Share this with your friends if you would like them to have a chance to see it. I'm sure that if they're green-white or you think they might be, then this would be a good view for them. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, travel well.